Rolling out a seat at the table. Of course, this is the location that we bring individuals who are creating seats, those who have an understanding and are willing to give access, information to those that don't have. And I'm very, 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 very proud of these brothers who've come together. I want to say that both Virgil and Reynard have a vision that they're going to share with us today that we need all of you to get involved with. Hello, brothers. Hello, brothers.
Hello, brother. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. So, just out of curiosity, where'd you guys meet, Reynard, and how did this idea come about?
Okay, good. Yeah, man, our history goes back probably about over 30 something years. Virgil and I attended Alabama State, and we were bandsmen together. And a little on the funny side, I used to beat this kid up. He came in the band about 3 years after I did. We were in the same section. We played the trumpet. So I used to give him a really, really hard time, man. But, became really good friends. And we also became members of the same music fraternity, which is Phi Mu Alpha Professional Fraternity, Music Fraternity for Men. We're members of that. He did make a wrong decision by joining the Black and Gold organization called Alpha Phi Alpha. We always kid each other about that. I am an Omega. But he's always tried to follow in my footsteps. But again, we've been good friends for years. After college, we kind of both went our separate ways, and he did his professional thing with the military. Got into the chemical field, worked for Eastman Chemical for about 19 years, and Virgil is a retired Army officer. So about 2008, 2007, I got back into running because I wanted to make a lifestyle change. I was a little overweight and had one probably one scare, but it wasn't serious. But I wanted to make this lifestyle change, so I got back into running around 2008. I did my first 5K, 2009 half marathon, 2010. Moving a little long, we started an organization called Walk Jog Run Club. It was based out of Anderson, Alabama. We had probably about 4 or 5 people that originally started this club, but around 2010, 2011, I had a vision that I wanted this organization to be a little bit more intentional in our efforts, because there's a runners club probably in every in every city, every state. There's numerous organizations, but we wanted to do something totally different. So I kind of reached out to Virgil. We connected actually on another event that we were doing, but I brought him into this running thing. Of course, he was out of shape, so I had to whip him into shape. But we connected, and we started looking at what could we do that was totally different. As organizers and founders of a Black organization, that we can be intentional into the community, giving back to our communities, and actually building with this health and wellness type thing. So we created an organization. We started a run. Let me go back. We started a run. It was going to be a 5K, but we decided to say let's do something a little bit more than that. So we said, what about Selma to Montgomery? There was some history, the 1965 March, and Virgil came up with an idea, saying, "Man, let's get in the van. We'll all meet up. We'll go down to Montgomery and look at this thing to see what it looks like. Do we just run over the bridge? No, we said let's be a little bit more intentional than that. So we created a Selma to Montgomery 51-mile relay, and we had participants. The first year was 2018. We had participants that come from around the world. We had about 400 and close to 500 participants for this first event. The event was well received. We were able to give back to some really good charities, and we said let's send out um, a form and see what kind of efforts and kind of what people would think about this race. Would they want to continue? Let's get their input on this. And pretty much everybody responded back, hey, listen, we would love to do this thing on an annual basis. So we came back 2019. We created what we call the Civil Rights Race Series. It was our 501c3 organization. We put on that race again in 2019. really rave reviews. And man, we started building from there. Moving a little further with the Civil Rights Race Series, what we wanted to do was be tactful in our efforts of our targets, which was the educational pieces, because when people came to Montgomery and also the areas that we planned to put on these races, we wanted to give them some educational pieces about what happened in the history. Also, the economic development pieces, when we come into those cities, we're giving back, whether it's hotel stays, whether it's feeding, so have you, and also the health and wellness. We're an organization, we espouse fitness, so we want to encourage people to get more active, and also this adds longevity to their lives. So we started looking into some areas. Like I said, Selma was our first event. So what the Civil Rights Race Series was starting to do is put on events around the world that took part during the Civil Rights Movement. And that's what our goal is. So that's how we kind of got back together.
Cool. So right now we've got something really special, the HBCU FundFest. We're really working to raise, and I love the consciousness. Virgil, can you kind of bring us up to date on where we are with this particular movement?
Okay, so as Ray stated, we started as the Civil Rights Race Series, and we evolved into the Black Raven Endurance Collective because we recognized as event organizers of color, there weren't a lot of investments from corporate America into us. Corporate America is really good at giving us a sneaker, a shirt, a nutrition bar, but the investment in the organization to build the capacity of the organization was something that we were noticing was lacking. Because as we were developing, we had great relationships with other organizations inside of this endurance space. Black Girls Run, Black Men Run, National Black Marathoners, Major Taylor Cycling. We're investing a lot of money into the endurance space, but the endurance space isn't investing a lot into us. So what we thought is we could create a coalition of sorts, an industry trade organization of sorts called Black Raven Endurance Collective. And so we thought, how could we be most impactful in an organization that's just starting up? And so looking across the landscape, we thought, well, maybe we could support an entity that's been disproportionately affected during COVID. And so we looked across the landscape and we decided education would be that thing. And so we looked across and said, well, what about HBCUs? Since we're products of HBCUs, what could we do that could impact not just one HBCU, but all HBCUs? Because we know that there are some HBCUs that get a lot of love. In the AU Center, you got your Spelmans and your Morehouses, you got your Howards and your FAMUs. But what about your Fort Valley states and your Savannah states and your Alabama states? What about doing something for them? And so we decided that we could come up with a 30-day event to raise as much money as possible for these organizations, but also to tell the story of these organizations, to tell the story of these historically Black colleges and universities, so that we could raise money, but we could also level the playing field, level the visibility, and hopefully the capacity of these organizations as we move forward. And so, fast forward 30 days, we've raised thousands of dollars, and hopefully we're going to do a lot working through our community partner, the Thurgood Marshall College Fund.
So for everybody who's watching now, what can they do today to support this right now?
They can go to www.hbcufundfest.com. They can go on and register for the event, walk a couple of miles today, or just say you're going to walk a couple of miles in the next few weeks or so. Or you can go on and make a donation, because what this is giving money to all 103 historically Black colleges and universities. So go to hbcufundfest.com, register, make a donation, and be most impactful for these kids that are deserving of our support.
So for me, I see it as a builder. I think all of us are working to build institutions, and at a seat at the table, it's really important that we have a bigger ask. So as it relates to the endurance companies, what would you like to see more of them do as it relates to supporting and how do you think we can create those mechanisms between the endurance, sporting, fitness, industry, beverages, all those categories? How can they best partner with you all to support our community?
Okay, so we love that question because we love to sit at the table and actually discuss, what's mutually beneficial for the two entities or the multiple entities. It's the investment, not the donation. We believe in building capacity across the country. And it's not about so much about the skin tone, but about, what's great business. We're building great businesses, but sometimes our businesses don't grow because we don't have that investment. So look at these entities, these cycling clubs. We're spending $10,000, $20,000 on the bikes, but the bike companies aren't investing back in our community. And then we know that we've been affected disproportionately by COVID. So we know that if we have a more active lifestyle, that may extend this thing. We can survive COVID. We can survive other respiratory illnesses because we're kind of fit. So we're asking those corporate America to look at us, to look at these endurance organizations, look at the cyclists, look at the skaters, look at the skiers, look at the swimmers, and look at what we're investing because we're readily giving our money to you. We are asking for reciprocal treatment. Invest in us. Watch us grow. Let's grow together. Let's not just look and watch, but let's grow together.
So annually, how many events do you put on now? Do you anticipate happening in
Okay,
like 2022?
okay, so pre-COVID, we were doing about 4 or 5 events a year under the Civil Rights Race Series moniker. Under the Black Raven, it's slightly different because our focus is on building capacity for other organizations. So we will help them as in any way possible, from marketing to sales, to corporate development, to some of the creative pieces, to social media, et cetera. We provide capacity. So hopefully we're doing 10 or 20 events a year to kind of build this community. It's not just about, the organization that Ray and I founded, but it's about all of us. That's why it's called the collective.
No, I love collective economics, but I believe our community needs to understand that they are receipt shareholders. And so if you are a receipt shareholder, the corporation should recognize your cash, which they can see. They're tracking our data, they're tracking our swipes on our credit cards. Our children should also be educated, or young people and young adults, to know that we need to demand. This is a moment. I see what you're doing as a movement. There is a movement asunder. We need to require and request much more boldly, much more loudly, because we can't act like this is a gift. This is really just reciprocity, economic reciprocity. We're in the midst of talking about Tulsa, but Tulsa happens anytime that they are not investing in our community. So when you think about the vets and you think about the Black veterans, Raynard and you and Virgil, what can we do and how can we get them involved as well?
Okay, as a veteran, as a 26-year Army officer, it's about the investment. It's about, as we speak of Tulsa, and my daughter and I had this conversation. There are Tulsas everywhere. There were communities of us that got together and did great things, but for whatever reason, we didn't extend that. There wasn't continued investments in that. And those of us that have learned and have gone, we've moved out. And so it's about investing back in, because it's easy to say we should and other folks should, but it's about us investing in us. And as a vet, the Veterans Administration gives us pennies, but the real way to build capacity within that veteran community is to help them to help themselves, to help them build those financial vehicles, those economic engines to service themselves and their fellow brethren, because we can build on each other and provide those services, just like a home builder does with a subcontractor. We could all come in together and provide a service to that community and build that community up, just like with Black Raven. Yes, sir.
Raynard, who would be the top 10 companies that you'd like to see invest in the Black Raven Endurance Collective?
Well, if I would remove probably the endurance corporations like Nike and some of the others that fall up under that realm, we would look at some of the larger companies, the IT companies, the Lowe's, all of those type companies that are really not involved in the endurance community to also give back to the Black community and also support Black Raven. One of the things that we found out is that even with the Civil Rights Race Series, when we were out seeking donations, the ask that we had and received was totally different than some of the other organizations out there. So bringing these organizations in as a collective, we think, because we notice that corporate America looks at the numbers. So we say, listen, we work as a collective. When we go to ask for these corporate companies to support Black Raven, Black Girls Run, Black Men Run, all of those, the BIPOC community, endurance community, our ask should be equal across the board. You shouldn't be able to give one organization $10,000 and give another organization $100, because as we build this collective together, our ask can be the same. So we're reaching out to not only, again, to the endurance organizations and communities, but all of those that are not part of it, because there's a lot of companies out there that we've noticed during COVID that are passing money out of the windows, and we're going after those organizations and those corporations also.
So, Virgil, when you have this idea coming and it's manifesting, I just want our community to know what the next steps are. So if a person's a runner, if a person is a advertising and marketing exec, how should they understand that the Black Raven Collective helps as it relates to the health and wellness of our community?
So some of the programming that we will produce, we'll talk to Black health, BIPOC health and wellness, but also talk about building capacity, building that database of what investments are within this endurance space. So if we get an investment from Nike, we understand based on our numbers, we can kind of quantify the investment looks like this. Because you can tell me something and you can tell Ray something else, but unless we're sharing the information, we don't know. So to hold corporate America accountable, that's what Black Raven is doing. We'll eventually, produce a blacklist that talks about these are organizations that really believe in investing in Black run clubs, Black cycling organizations, Black endurance product developers, because there are quite a few of us out there, but we don't get the same type of real estate, the same type of eyes on us. And so, one of the things that Black Raven will do for fear, not being fearful of what could happen, is to say that we need that. We need to hold you accountable, because we're participating in Chicago, we're participating in Boston, we're participating in New York, we're participating in Atlanta. We're giving you our money. And so come back and look at us. But if you don't, we're making this list and we're understanding who you are and who you aren't. And although you're saying you're doing all of these things for good, and although it sounds really great to say DEI, we are doing all of these great things in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. If your actions don't reflect that, then you really aren't doing it. And one of the things that, we've run into, we always get on the side of philanthropy. They're going to give us a donation because of this. We want to get on the side of sales and marketing. We want to be a driver for you, because we understand if we can create revenue for you, we're going to create revenue for us. And so, if we could talk to, a marketing exec or an endurance athlete, we're going to espouse, these are the organizations. We aren't, an individual membership-based organization per se, but we can talk about your Black Girls Run, or your Girls on, your Girl Trek, or your Black Men Run, or your National Black Marathoners, or your, National, Black Trail Runners. We can talk about all of these niche groups that maybe you have a desire to affiliate with. We can tell their story so that you'll know that you aren't the only one that has a desire to do that, or you aren't the only one that would love to do that. Because one of the things as runners, we all know that there's security in numbers, and we have all experienced some type of racial tension being on the street by ourselves. So we understand that we must come together for safety and security, but also financial prosperity.
So, Reynard, the fund, if you would give them the fund, what it is, and what you want individuals to do today, and how people that want to join can join, if you'll share that information as well.
Yes. Again, as Virgil stated, go to HBCU FundFest.com. That is our registration platform. Through Run Sign Up, they can register today, get their time in anytime between 11:59 p.m. tonight Eastern Time. They can make donations to that site. Again, we're reaching out to the community, not just the endurance community, but the couch potatoes. Just go out and do something, because the support of these 103 institutions are needed, and we need your support.
Well,
And
so
also go to blackravenec.com to get more information about us and to look at our programming. And if you'd like to affiliate or talk about some of the things that we're doing, we'd love to have some meaningful dialogue with others that have an affinity, a desire to work within this space. blackravenec.com.
cool. So I love it. I think it's a phenomenal institution. I think the accountability is key. I think the transparency is pretty much what we're asking for corporations. We don't want to hear numbers like 400 million from Pepsi without knowing that they have dispensed dollars to organizations. So I look forward. I know that Rolling Out has a forum coming up just for this regarding the economic health. I know that's July. We're doing a whole economic health prospect where we're talking about transparency, CMOs, chief marketing officers, having real meetings and real relationships with the Black business community. So everybody out there, this is Munson Steed. I need you to go to hbcufundfest.com and support today. Make a donation if you don't want to run. If you haven't run, make a donation. If you have a number of pounds during COVID you want to lose, then lose it by doing 20, 30, 50, 100, $200 to the fund. If you can't be creative in your mind and you're not sure you feel like running today, then just make that your dinner. Instead of eating, kind of do a whole fast. So these are the ways. These are institutional builders. We're so proud to have you here at a seat at the table. I'm Munson Steed. I'm hanging out with Virgil and Reynard from Black Raven Endurance Collective. Be sure to visit their website. And if nothing else, remember, you do not have to be in the streets, but you must be in the struggle. I'm Munson Steve for another seat at the table.